Good afternoon. Today is Sunday, May the 3rd, 2020, and this is the English language summary of the daily press briefing of the Center for COVID Situation Administration, or CCSA, once again. Today we had some special guests coming to the press briefing to give some information, including the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, the Permanent Secretary of Interior, as well as the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Transport. So just to remind that, of course, the cases, different situations around the world are fluid. There have been news of course, in some countries opening up, easing the lockdown too quickly, and that has caused an effect on the situation, such as in Hokkaido in Japan, where the World Health Organization has actually warned and given advice to various countries around the world against having a lockdown which is eased up too prematurely. So right now we are in the first stage of restrictions easing, which begins today, and the details of which will be shown to you on screen on a slide. In summary, the certain essential businesses could reopen and certain activities would be permitted. However, we reiterate that everyone has to continue to observe the health guidelines, maintaining physical distancing, wearing masks all the time, and washing hands often, and avoid being in congested places. Yes, we have a slide on screen for you, which we actually elaborated on yesterday. In addition to this, please be advised to check with your provincial administration first for the different, possibly different regulations, and the implementation of the CCSA guidelines is the authority of each province. For instance, Bangkok Metropolitan Administration has announced the regulations regarding the businesses and resumption of certain activities as well. So in Bangkok, the restaurants must regularly check with employees and patrons for fever. This is advised for all restaurants, and customers coming in groups are advised to sit separately to maintain physical distancing. Markets have to be setting a maximum number of customers that they could serve in a given time, and customers and vendors must go through the temperature check. While barber shops and salons could offer the following services: cutting, trimming, washing, and styling, and also keep a record of the customers that has to be kept. As for the beauty and weight loss clinics, which are remained closed, other types of clinics could reopen in accordance with the guidelines of the Ministry of Public Health. The parks can reopen with walking, jogging, and cycling allowed, but no group, no team, or competitive sports are allowed. So please follow these rules strictly, as cooperation is essential, and it will be successful with your cooperation, with your help, and normalcy can return in due course. So before moving to other issues, just to clarify once again some points on easing of these regulations. Of course, standalone restaurants can resume their dine-in options. That means standalone, meaning those located outside malls. And restaurants located in commercial spaces or office buildings, considered to be community malls, are treated in the same way as malls. So the food sold in these restaurants are permitted for takeout and delivery only. And as of today, the sales of alcoholic beverages is resumed, but it must be only for home consumption, no gathering, no consumption in public places, and no consumption in restaurants. And of course, as mentioned, check with the provincial authorities for enforcement. The authorities have undertaken regular monitoring since yesterday and also today. With yesterday, the Supreme Commander of the Thai Armed Forces visiting shopping malls, Siam Paragon in Bangkok, to inspect whether all the regulations are observed and in advance of today's restrictions. So we have an image on screen today of that visit to Siam Paragon Mall in Bangkok by the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces in his capacity as the chief, the head of the Operations Center for Security Issues. And what was found was that Paragon Mall maximized the sanitation in all points of contact and therefore was up to the standards using innovation and health safety. So these kind of visits for monitoring the enforcement of measures is very important and will be continued in establishments, other shopping malls and other business establishments. The Supreme Commander also talked about easing the restrictions, which is for the well-being of business and economic sustainability. But still, for inter-provincial travel, while the restrictions are relaxed, everyone has to abide by the regulations, and ultimately it is not a sign that we can be complacent. For inter-provincial travel, to continue on that, it's essential that you avoid travel to other provinces at the moment, except in the case of absolute necessity, and I repeat, absolute necessity. So please check with your home province and destination province for the specific regulations. The general principle is that you have to have reasons and documents for traveling inter-province. And the general principle is also that when you travel, the quarantine might have to be applied in terms of your final destination. But of course, that would be up to each province for each local quarantine available at the final destination. But if the visit is for a short period of time, like for 2 or 3 days, certain provinces will have registration mechanisms to register and track your movements within that province so as to avoid any spread of COVID. Also, we had the Permanent Secretary of Transport, as I mentioned. So he summarized that people are advised recommended to postpone any and all trips, and there must be adequate reasons to travel, as I mentioned. And of course, the quarantine would take into account the local quarantine in the final destination would take into account the duration of your trip, and that any quarantine conducted will depend on your final destination and your length of stay as well. So moving on to the general situation and the number of cases that we have. We have report to you today 3 new cases, 2 in Bangkok from close contact and 1 from state quarantine, making the accumulated total 2,969, as you see on the slide on screen. And from this number, 92% have recovered or been discharged. And new fatalities, 0, which is very good to hear. The spokesperson also talked about the active case finding in Yala province, where a certain number of people were found to have COVID, yet these persons have not exhibited any symptoms. So the cases have to be double-checked, and they are in the process of verification and analysis before further confirmation. So this is actually a piece of information that proves that active case finding is working. There continues to be, in the case of Yala, local assessment. It has been reported in the news that around 40 have contracted COVID in this group of active case finding in Yala. But as mentioned, we would have to confirm this through assessment within today, and we'll report to you in due course. For the enforcement of curfew, we have violations in terms of leaving residences, 515, and gatherings, 107, making the total 622 violations. We mention this every day because it does have a bearing, it does have an effect on the assessment that we have and the measures that will be announced for the second phase. As you know, we're in the first phase of easing right now. So towards the second phase, we will take all this information for assessment. For the issue of Thai nationals repatriation, we have for today 3 flights from Russia, from Spain, Madrid, Spain, and from Singapore. The flight from Madrid, Spain, taking home Thai nationals from various countries in Europe. You can see that on the slide. And for tomorrow, we have 2 flights from Hong Kong SAR and from Maldives, the one from Maldives taking back Thai nationals, including tourists and those affected by closures of businesses. So to date, we have assisted a total number of 3,981 Thai nationals by air repatriation from 23 countries and territories around the world. So we will continue to do this as it is a part of our responsibility and mission. So moving on to the facilitation of repatriation of Thai nationals abroad, the Foreign Ministry continues to provide this assistance. We have some images for you as always. First is the Royal Thai Consulate General in Sydney, Australia, reaching out to the Thai community, and that will be continued in the days to come. Also, images from the Royal Thai Embassy in Kuwait, reaching out to Thai workers, providing 450 sets of supplies and necessities and they're also discussing with business owners to ensure the hygienic working environment and accommodation for Thai workers there. Also, the Royal Thai Embassy in Nur Sultan, Kazakhstan, successfully facilitated the return to Thailand of Thai nationals stranded in Western Kazakhstan, and this is the first ever repatriation flight out of Central Asia. We received inquiries on social media, and we will address some of these each day. One question was about the return of foreign nationals with work permits. As I had addressed some days ago, that is under discussion. So there was an inquiry about an individual who has a retirement visa and a re-entry permit currently in Malaysia, and who wanted to return through Hat Yai and fly to Chiang Mai. And the question was that if he can do that and self-quarantine at home in Chiang Mai, and when that can be done. So all Thai and foreign nationals who enter the kingdom must undergo the mandatory 14-day quarantine in facilities arranged by the state. And for the time being, only Thai nationals are permitted to cross the border, the land border, for the purpose of limiting infection risks and disease control. Foreign nationals who have the urgency or necessity to travel into Thailand at this moment today should contact the embassies and consulates for further information. And of course, as mentioned, the consideration on this matter is ongoing until the situation improves and we reach the next step of easing of the measures, perhaps in phase 2. So we ask for your patience and kindly follow the information from the CCSA and official sources for updates. Another inquiry received was on the easing of restrictions, whether condominiums with swimming pools fall under the sports and recreation category under the 6 types of businesses and activities allowed to reopen. Actually, the swimming pools in condominiums are not included. This category covers public facilities, public parks and outdoor sporting venues, such as golf, as mentioned, and other sports, as we mentioned yesterday, with the exception of a team and competition or close contact sports. That is not allowed. Another question was on public beaches. Do they fall under the sports and recreation, under the 6 type of businesses allowed to open for beaches? So for that, beaches, of course, you have to check the regulations with each province with the information provided by the Ministry of Interior on their website. Public beaches, which mostly, of course, are outside Bangkok in the provinces. So as a concluding note, just to recap that the World Health Organization recommended that the easing up of restrictions or the opening up of lockdowns, if it's done too fast, of course, that can have an effect on the control of COVID. So we have to be careful of not doing that too much or too early. And that is a call from the World Health Organization that many countries are listening to. So for Thailand, first phase, and we'll do it slowly but surely. So, of course, your health, and it is your responsibility to yourself and to others. Please don't forget all the measures that we repeat and say to you every day. This is the first day of certain easing of restrictions, as you know. So please bear with us. Please let's be one in enforcing all these restrictions or these easing up according to the measures announced. So we reiterate that all guidelines should not be taken lightly. One misstep could undo all the work, all the efforts that we have done. So as customers of businesses, you need to be cautious and follow the measures implemented by the restaurants, the supermarkets, and other establishments. And as business vendors, restaurant owners, and owners of businesses that are reopening, you have the responsibility to your customers and your staff to keep them safe and prevent them from the spread of the virus. So therefore, your cooperation is very essential. So everyone, please have a healthy and restful Sunday. Continue to be cautious and mindful of others. And thank you very much. สวัสดีครับ
ครับขอบพระคุณ